而家就開始返會議。
差唔多 Yeah. So this is very important public works project, which can help improve the traffic situation of Kowloon, and this is a very important proposal for the affected residents. At the last meeting, many members have expressed their views and asked many questions. Today, we have Professor Lau from the University of Science and Technology. Earlier on, Professor Lau had conducted a study for the administration regarding the air quality issue, and he's come here today to answer members' questions. I think members can ask very critical questions, but I don't think we should say anything that is abusive or insulting. We also have many members of the public in the public gallery. First of all, I'd like to extend my welcome to them. And I do not want some members not observing the order of our proceedings and thus affecting the conduct of our meetings. We will now continue with our meeting. And Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, since you did not observe order of this meeting, I believe that I am of the opinion that you have to leave the chamber. If you insist on not leaving, I would not make things difficult for our security staff. So you may still sit in the chamber, but you will not be allowed to participate in our discussion today. Mr. Lau Kok Fan. Thank you. I have a question for the Deputy Secretary. This is a compromise option, and you're going to do it in the form of an additional project. And this additional project will not affect the progress of the central Kowloon route because the project has already been gazetted and is ongoing. So is there any room for you to further negotiate with the residents of Prosperous Garden? I've talked to the residents myself, and regarding the compromise option, of course the government has made a concession, and it's a good thing. But they still believe that this compromise option is like what the professor said in his PowerPoint. That is, the distance is the crucial factor. And the residents asked whether or not we could extend it further by another 80 meters so that it will be acceptable to both parties. If we're going to extend it by another 80 meters, would it be in contravention of any of the fire safety regulations? Professor Lau, or Secretary? I think, well, to answer Mr. Lau's question, his question was whether or not we will be breaching the fire service regulations if we extend the enclosure by 80 meters. Perhaps I can ask our highways to answer the question. Director, thank you. At the last PWSC meeting, I had already explained this once already. Let me try to elaborate in greater details today. Our earlier proposal was that outside Prosperous Garden, we already have two full enclosures at the front and at the back. In the middle section, there is a part which is semi-enclosed. According to the fire service regulations, if a full enclosure is more than 230 meters, it will be treated as a tunnel, and it should be designed as such. If the design is a tunnel, there will be two issues. I understand. If we were to extend it by another 80 meters, would it still comply with the requirements of the law? 230 meters is the threshold for a tunnel. But if there is only a single full enclosure, that is one indicator. But if you have a full enclosure at the front and towards the back, the fire service regulations would require that the whole proposal would need to be looked at together. So have you made an assessment for this full proposal? I was just about to explain this. If we consider it holistically, then we would need to construct a computer mathematical model in order for us to conduct the analysis. The analysis would include scenario when there is a fire at different locations, and also we need to make different assumptions and analysis of the intensity of the smoke. And such analysis would take a long time. And secondly, it's very expensive. And
we don't have the funding yet. So while when it comes to doing the analysis, as we cannot do it now, we are not sure that whether technically this is feasible under the fire services regulations. So our present proposal is that we will follow the compromise scheme, and the mitigation effect it can achieve is similar to that of a full enclosure. As for the impact on air quality, it is not worse off than the original proposal. The professor has explained about it just now. Now, the member asked if the enclosure can be extended by 80 meters. Well, my answer is that at the moment we are not sure whether this would comply with the fire services rules. Now, would you adopt an open attitude? That is, in the future you will continue to carry out this study, because for this extra project you will have to communicate with the residents further. Yes, your question is very clear. Director? Now, when we put forward when we carry out the compromise scheme, we will definitely thoroughly consult and communicate with the residents. We will explain to them about our analysis. But that is the next stage. That is something that we will definitely do. Next, Professor Hau Cheung in 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Last time, the government put forward this compromise scheme. And it is said that it will incur cost and time. Now, if we are to extend the full enclosure within one single project, then you will have to follow the 2014 EPD air quality indicator. Now, if you follow the 2014 air quality indicator, does it mean that there will be a cost overrun? Thank you, Chairman. Professor Yu, let's look at it this way. Well, for the whole project, we have already conducted EIA and we have already gazetted it. As for gazettal, it's a very important procedure. If we are to amend the present proposal, first of all, we will have to gazette it again. And it will take about 2 years. And there will be a delay of 2 years. And if the proposal is changed, we will go back to EPD and try to find out whether a new EIA would have to be conducted. If there are such major changes, it is very likely that another EIA will have to be conducted. And then we will have to meet the latest requirements, because we will be conducting a new EIA. As to whether whether we will not meet the requirements, we are not sure about that because we haven't done it yet. Now, for the background pollution, now is already quite serious, so this will be a very big challenge. Professor Yu? And now you are saying that with the compromise scheme, the sensitive receptors air pollution level will not be seriously affected. So are you following the old EPD air quality indicator? Thank you, Chairman. Professor Yu, you are right. For the present EIA, we are following the old air quality indicator. And there are some minor changes, and we would have to meet these requirements. We are trying to consider whether this should be broken up into two projects, and you've told us that, well, there may be delay in time and the cost may go up. And technically, well, last time you might not have explained very detailedly to members. Now, if this are incorporated into one single project, technically, because that's already a new EPD air quality indicator, then the technical feasibility of the whole project may be rendered infeasible. Yes, you are right. Just now I said that would be a big challenge. That's because we haven't done it yet. That is doing an EIA in accordance with the latest air quality indicator. And I said that it would be a great challenge. And if we cannot meet the latest requirements concerning air quality, then this project cannot go ahead. This is a reality. So I hope that members will take this into consideration. If we think that the project will bring about positive impacts on society, we should allow the project to be completed as early as possible. As for Prosperous Garden and the residents in the vicinity, when it comes to air and noise pollution, and if we look at the air quality in Hong Kong on the whole, there will be a positive impact. Why is that? Now we are building a tunnel. And for vehicles going from east to west or west to east in Kowloon, many of them will be going into the tunnel in the future, and they will not be running on roads. So the emission will not be affecting residents directly. And for the emission inside the tunnel, we will collect it, and there will be an air purification system. Over 80% of the nitrogen dioxide and respirable suspended particulates will be filtered. That will have a very positive impact on the overall air quality of Hong Kong. So we really hope that the project can be done. Yes, I think we've spent a lot of time on this, but members, I hope you can be more succinct. Before the next member speaks, Professor, now on the screen is the Chinese version of your PowerPoint just now, right? So members can make reference to that. Mr. Hau Cheung Street, Chairman. Now we are discussing the compromise scheme. I would really like to ask these questions. Just now I haven't heard the answer. Now the most controversial thing is about blocks 1 and 5 of Prosperous Garden. And for the enclosure, if it's to be extended by 80 meters, and then how much would it cost? Just now, you said that you haven't made a calculation, but you have to let us know. Now, if you respect the views of the residents, and I've heard that it's not unlawful, right? That means it can be compliant with the laws. So how much will it cost if it's to be extended by 80 meters? Director? Maybe I should explain in a clearer manner. Well, I was talking about the fire safety legislation and whether we can meet that. We have been talking about 230 meters. Now, if there's only one single enclosure and it's 230 meters long, then it's one indicator. But if at the beginning and end of the whole session there are two enclosures, can we look at the lengths of the two enclosures separately? We are not sure yet. We have to do some computer model analysis before we can have an answer. So what I said just now was that technically we are still not sure whether the full enclosure can be extended by 80 minutes. We are still not sure about that. So what do you have to do? We still haven't done a computer simulation analysis. That is what will happen if it's extended by 80 minutes. Then why don't you do it? Now, for doing such an analysis, it takes a very long time. Last time, we spent 3 months on it. It's not that something we can do ourselves. We have to find an expert. Last time we commissioned a British expert to do it, and it lasted for 3 months because it's a very complicated analysis. Now we are proposing to separate this into 2 projects, and for the compromise scheme, we will still have room to try to identify the best options. At the moment, we are not certain. Director, I think several members have been asking these questions, and now Ms. Claudia Mo is going to move a 32A motion, and they are all about the possible extension of the enclosure by 80 meters. And the director said that, well, for this compromise scheme, it will be considered later. So will you have time to do the calculation concerning the extension of the enclosure? If that's possible, then you would have answered many members' questions. Well, I'm very flexible today, and many members would like to ask the same question. So I would like to ask the director again. Now, if we separate these into 2 projects, then we will have enough time to take a further look and try to identify the best option. Now, it should be the most cost-effective one, and it should meet the needs of the residents. You will do the analysis, right? Yes, we will definitely do that. So your question has been answered. Yes, Mr. Kwong Chun-yu. I think the most affected people are the Prosperous Garden residents. So if you can do the extension, then how much would it cost? And you would at least go back to consult the residents of the Prosperous Garden, right? Yes, I think they said that they will do another round of consultation. How will they do that? Under Secretary, now if this is another independent project, then we will stick to our established procedures. Now we will conduct a detailed feasibility study. We will do investigation, detailed design, and then we will have a public consultation. So will you meet with the residents? That is, you will directly communicate with the residents. Well, in the past, our colleagues have been in constant contact with the residents. Ms. Claudia Mo. Thank you, Chairman. it's unfortunate that, well, for the CKR project, it has been under discussion for many years. And when residents protest, you would make concessions. And now you come up with this compromise scheme. But so, unfortunately, there are still problems concerning fire safety. And you are saying that technically you are not sure right now because you will have to make calculations again. That is about the locations where fire might start, the density of smoke, etc. And it will be very costly. So how costly will it be and how long will it take? You said that last time you asked a British expert to do it and it took 3 months. So for major projects in Hong Kong, I think 3 months are not a very long time. So I have 2 questions. How long will it take? And how expensive will it be? Director? Last time we made an analysis and we did it through a big consultancy firm in Hong Kong. It commissioned an expert in the UK to do the analysis. Well, this is not commonly done. We actually haven't done it before. According to our last experience, it would take 2 to 3 months. And this time around, if we want to look at more details concerning the compromise scheme, I think it will take more or less the same time or even longer time. How about the construction cost? At the moment, we are not sure. But this is not one of our concerns at the moment. For the compromise scheme, we already gave members some figures last time. For the enclosure in the middle is $520 million. If it's to be extended, that is the full enclosure, then the construction cost will go up further. So you repeated twice just now. You said that technically you are not sure yet, but you are not saying that technically is not feasible. Now, if I were a resident or if I'm just an ordinary Hong Kong person, if I were to be affected, then I still cannot find it acceptable. Now, you are saying that there may be a delay and the construction cost may be higher. Well, anyway, you are doing it, so why don't you do it in one go? Just now I said that it's not certain. As to technically whether it's viable, we are still not certain. And I want to supplement. If it's changed from semi-enclosure to an extended full enclosure, we will have to gazette again. And as to whether the original EIA is still valid, we will have to reconsider. So if the full enclosure is to be extended, all these factors have to be taken into consideration. Chairman, I would like to add one remark. They say that they would have to gazette again and there may be a delay of 2 years. But now you are not sure whether you need to gazette it again. I think the director means that for the principal project, if it's to be gazetted again, there will be a delay of 2 years. But if the principal project can go ahead, and if the compromise scheme is regarded as another project for gazettal, then that's another story. I'm not answering on their behalf, but I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. Mr. Eddie Chu. Thank you, Chairman. Well, with regard to the enclosure, I think what the government means is that if the principal project is to be separated from the additional two, in particular the one in the south, then we can discuss the other parts later.
係有一個32A 係相關咧，希望我哋真係通。
So I hope we can pass the Rule 32A motion so that the government knows fully and clearly the position taken by this subcommittee, and that is the enclosure at the south should be done. And as far as possible, the vertical ventilation outlet should be moved to the south. That's my understanding. Secondly,
於嗰個斬嗰1800幾棵樹。
And I also want to ask a question about the felling of 1,800 trees. It shows that the Highways Department is lagging behind the modern approach. There's a report that that when the Highways Department deal with landscaping waste, they just dump it in the landfill. It said that if there are more appropriate way of disposal, the Highways Department will consider such options. So the question is, you haven't considered this? Have you started to look into the options? So are you just saying that you would do it, or you have been given some suggestion by the EPD on better ways to deal with the trees that are to be felled? Well, you want to fell them, go, I'll let you do it, but don't dump the waste into our landfills. We like to make sure that we have a green waste disposal approach. When this is outsourced to a contractor, we'll ask the contractor to look into better, more environmental friendly ways. If at the end of the day we cannot reuse the waste, as it would be inevitable that some of it would go to the landfill. Do you want to set a target on the extent, the percentage of waste that would not be sent to the landfill? Yes, we can consider setting an indicator for the contractor. I have another question, but I've just got only 30 seconds left, and that is about the Jade Market and the library, that the provisioning of both. I don't know whether other members have asked about this. For the Jade Market, well, it's the subject of the attractions. It's an attractions mentioned in many tourist guidebooks. And now you're going to divide it into two, and then the FEHD is asked to manage the market. And now the market will be moved to a temporary location before there will be a permanent reprovisioning site. And we don't know how long it will take. So what's your
attitude towards this tourist attraction. Don't regard it as some sort of a waste to be disposed of. But the project would affect the J market. The current arrangement is that the market will be relocated, and then for the permanent replacement will have to be further looked into between the departments and the relevant operators. The relevant departments must talk to them. It's not a simple matter. We have to come up with a permanent reprovisioning plan. Well, you had this plan some more than 10 years ago, and now you still want the departments to talk about this in the future. Well, they failed to address the problem so far. Well, the matter can be followed up in a panel meeting. For the 32A motion, I have to tell members that all your suggestions and views will be recorded. And if government officials give an undertaking, the same will be recorded. So I can tell members that if you wish that certain things can be done, you don't need to rely on the 32A motions. All of those will be recorded as part of our records of this subcommittee. And the relevant departments, I believe, will follow up the relevant issues accordingly. That's the practice. Mr. Michael Tin, first round, 4 minutes. Thank you. You want a funding of $4.24 billion, or $42.4 billion, and I believe the original EIA would involve measures to reduce the sound level to under 70 dB, and now residents want to have enclosure for Gascoigne Road flyover. The compromise scheme would cost us additionally $1 billion. I'm talking about the benefit of spending the additional $1 billion and whether it must be done or not. And now for the middle section, we want to have a full enclosure. I've read this again and again. Non-enclosure, non-semi-enclosure, a hybrid is proposed. Additionally, $670 million, and there's the proviso that there is no noise mitigation measures for lower floors. For the highest 3 floors, it's just a reduction of 1 dB. It's just an estimation. So for every unit, you are going to spend $220 million for a reduction of 1 dB. Did I make any mistake here? It's 70 dB for 3 units. You spend $220 million for each unit to reduce the noise by 1 dB. Can I get a response? And also for the extension of the noise barrier at the north, is going to be extended by 40 meters. It's a full enclosure. And 51 units would enjoy a reduction of sound level by 1 dB. It can be 1, 5, or 220 dB. So 20 units will have the sound reduction of 4 dB. Or I don't know what do you mean by 1 dB or more. So it's $9 million in subsidy for each unit. I'm not saying that people's aspirations are not important, but I'm more concerned about how we spend public funds. If we spend so much with so little effect, it's not a question of spending hundreds of millions of dollars, but whether the benefit will be substantial, or whether we are talking about hundreds of units. Maybe the government can tell us whether this would create a precedent. It would open the floodgate. How much can you do if you keep spending so much money to reduce sound by 1 decibel for so few units? I understand Mr. Tin's viewpoints. We have given the figures in the paper. This is a compromise scheme. We have to consider all the factors mentioned by Mr. Tin. Mr. Tin may recall that at the transport panel that there was a discussion. We said at the time that the entire project would comply with the EIA requirements, and the permit was granted. So why do we have this compromise scheme? Well, and also there are benefits for residents if the project goes forward. But at the meeting, members from across the political spectrum passed a motion to ask us to respond to residents' wishes. Therefore, we would like to achieve the benefits of the project as early as possible for Kowloon residents, and then also to further make improvements. We are now proposing this compromise scheme. So are the residents asking for a reduction of 1 decibel, 1 dB? Under this compromise scheme, for the middle section proposal, the reduction will be 1 dB. For 3 units? Yes. If this becomes a precedent in the future, how are you going to build any more new roads? Under Secretary, you have complied with the EIA, and you now want to spend tens of millions of dollars in order to reduce this noise further by 1 dB. Under Secretary. Well, actually, the Council enjoys the power to approve the funding proposal. I have to respect that, and we have to respond to residents' aspirations as far as possible. And also, we need to balance the pros and cons. We believe that this project will achieve certain economic benefits, and we do not think this would create a precedent. We are responding to the wish of members of this council across the political spectrum, because if this project is not approved by council members, the disadvantages would be even greater. Mr. N. Zhang, we in the DAB have received certain requests and wishes from the residents. Well, usually, we are willing to accept a compromise scheme if the government proposal is considered acceptable, and we would explain to both sides, we explain to the residents, and we will certainly ask the government to accede to the requests of residents as far as possible. But now, the more you listen to officials, the more angry you become. You know that in Mong Kok, near a prosperous garden, the air quality is poor, and we're not talking about 1% or 2%. We're talking about modern day standards. You are not going to have your EIA approved now. You are using the standards that were there 10 years ago. You should gazette this after you have you do it again, all over again. But we are not asking for that. We just want you to accede to the request of residents made some 4 years ago. So that for the section near at the section at the prosperous garden, we can have a full enclosure. And now you are giving way bit by bit, and you want to bring the fire services requirements. The rule is clear. 230 meters is considered the length of a tunnel. and there will be different fire services requirements, and you have to redo the design. And now you are smart enough to come up with this new option to the additional 40 meters of barrier or enclosure at the primary school. We ask for 60 meters. You offer 40 meters, but near the Prosperous Garden you don't want to provide the enclosure. The residents are therefore very unhappy. Let's say that you count the additional project for the primary school, 40 plus 110, and then we add 100 meters. How much are we talking about? So is it 240 meters? What about 229 meters? Certainly that can be done, and that would not exceed the length mandated by fire services requirements. I think the Director of Highways has already explained this. For these technical issues, we must conduct a suitable study before we can say that it can be done or it cannot be done. Under this compromise scheme, our professional colleagues have assessed it, and the initial assessment is that it can be done. But members now want us to further improve it. And we can only do this after further studies are conducted. And there is also a dimension of cost to be considered. I don't think this will be approved today, but next time, please ask the FSD to send somebody to attend our meeting and explain it clearly. Ms. Zhang, I hope your prediction will not come to pass.
蔣麗芸議員其實先前咧，我亦都聽到咧就。
And I've heard from officials that clear answers have been given. If this main project is approved, and then the mitigation measures would be another one for Cassetto, and they would do the detailed feasibility study and look into the options proposed by members before Cassetto, and I believe they would certainly consider whether it should be 229 meters. Speakers off mic. I hope you will not say that this is not going to be approved. Dr. Lau Siu Lai, 3 minutes. Well, I hope that the meaning is that the DAB will not vote in favor of the item today. This is my understanding. You don't need to tell us your understanding. All right, let's return. Well, she's obstructing me, so you should not be that tight about my time measurement. The EIA was done years ago. Back then, they applied the standards in 1980s. If we use the standards in 2014, whether we're talking about NO2 or RSPs, the levels will be greatly exceeded. I have this document table today explaining the air purification system. It looks very advanced. Some 80% of NO2 will be filtered out, so the original concentration might be high, but after purification it will be reduced, and the installation will be there on a permanent basis. So can you have regard to the latest environmental protection standards, and then on both sides of the tunnel you can add one more purification system that would make things better, that would protect the health of residents? Director? So Dr. Lau, we have 3 ventilation blocks. All of them will be equipped with an air purification system. Yes, I know that. I think the one at Prosperous Garden is the most serious. Is the one with the most serious pollution, and there will be another 3 at Kai Tai. I believe such systems do work, I'm asking you to add one more, because I believe you did this because you wanted to comply with the standards in 1980s, but they will not live up to today's requirements. Director, the 3 ventilation blocks will be equipped with an air purification system. Adding an additional system would not help, because we are filtering out 80% of pollutants. The capacity, well, if the capacity is sufficient, then it's sufficient. If you add one more, you would exceed the volume of ventilation, and it's not helpful. Then are there other ways to improve air quality? I understand that you have technical difficulties, but you are now implementing EPD standards or air pollution standards in the 1980s. How much more can be done?
I think in the entire arrangement, we've already exhausted all the means available to us. For example, before the air is emitted, we will purify the air before it is discharged. We have also ventilation buildings. For example, near Prosperous Garden, we've tried to keep the ventilation building as far away from Prosperous Garden as possible. With all these measures in place, if we're still not able to satisfy the latest air quality indicators, that is a reality. And this is one important reason why which accounts for the ambient, pollution level. And we're going to rely on a single project to improve the overall air quality in Hong Kong. For this project, we can only try to minimize the impact of this project on the neighboring environment. For this project, we have already improved the overall air quality. As I said, when the vehicles go into the tunnel, the exhaust will not be emitted into the atmosphere. We will collect the emission and filter it before it is discharged. So what we can do, we've already tried our best to do it. I understand the director's explanation is very clear, but if you already try your best at the Kai Tak district, you've not extended the portal to the waterfront. Actually, you can do that. The EIA report also recommends that the ventilation building should be as tall as possible, at least 20 meters. So I believe the director has already heard your points. Regarding the second stage, the second part of the mitigating measures, I'm sure they will conduct all the required feasibility studies, including noise level and so on. Yeah, for the compromise option, we will certainly do all that before we come back to members again. Mr. A. Chen, your second round, 3 minutes. Thank you. I hope, Chairman, you understand why Dr. N. Jiang and some members from the pro-democratic camp and some of the residents cannot likely accept the compromise option. It is not just today that we've raised the issue. During the last term of LegCo, and we had two, meetings of the complaint division. The residents put forward, improvement measures. The government said that it's not feasible due to cost, effectiveness consideration. And then we were told that it's too expensive. And then later on, it was said that technically it was not feasible. Originally, they said that the pylon would not be able to support the flyover. And later on, we were told that it's not possible to turn it into a tunnel. But the government said that it's not absolutely not feasible. Otherwise, that would be the end of the question. You either have to build it or not. But now, the supplementary information table today, in paragraph 7, we're not talking about haggling in the market. This is a price where we offered a long time ago. But you said you need extra time to conduct simulation studies and so on. But it's not just today that you can do it. 2 years ago, we already started to discuss that. You said it's not feasible. You didn't do anything. So you can't put the blame on us or the residents. But in your paper, you now say that if you were to delay this project, there will be a delay of another 2 years, and because of inflation, there will be cost overruns. This is even more expensive than, going ahead with the improvement measures. In paragraph 17 of the supplementary information, we understand that if the cost for the delay is so high, and in reality you will not do it. In paragraph 21, you said you will continue to delay the residents. You're just giving them false expectations. Mr. Lau asked whether you would undertake, now let's say if I were to move a 32A motion, I demand that it has to be 40 to 80 meters. We want to force the government to make a further concession. The Undersecretary said that things can always be better, but have you already done your best, given your capacity? Mr. Chen is saying that we should increase it from 40 to 48 meters. I'm saying that it should be more than 40 meters, but you just gave one example. Director, I have already explained that in our compromise option or scenario, when will you start to study into this compromise scenario? For the main project, if our funding approval were approved, we will then proceed with the study into the compromised option. We are already doing the preparatory work already. Chairman, I think you've misheard me. I said that it should be between 40 to 80 meters. It should be more than 40. Director, we will carry out the study as soon as possible. The best option that we refer to just now is what we would like to achieve in our study. In the end, we will need to come back to this council for funding approval. Deputy Secretary, I understand members are trying to work for the welfare of the residents, and you want to try your best to satisfy the aspirations of the residents. But I think there's one thing we need to consider. That is, if we were to spend more public funds, we have to consider the cost effectiveness. For all government public works projects, we need to bear that in mind. Of course, technical factors aside, in the final analysis, I think government and members have to consider this. So in that case, you say if there's no impact, you may as well do away with the compromise, option. Mr. Agent, I think you've already made your point. Dr. K.K. Kwok, second round, 3 minutes. Chairman, I have a question I'd like to ask. Mr. Michael Teen made a very interesting point. You've already spent an additional $600 million, so it's about more than $200 million per residential unit. For this compromise option, economically, it's not too viable. You are helping such a small number of units, and you are spending so much money. So either you do it or you won't do it. If you're not going to do it, of course you would be able to make a saving. Some people say you may as well procure those units and then convert it into temporary residence for low-income households, and we wouldn't object to that. Because people living in subdivided flats, you can turn those units into temporary quarters for those living in subdivided flats. But I don't think you should do something halfway. If we go all the way, of course, there will be more benefits. And we're now asking you to have another gazetto. We just want you to split it up into two parts. First of all, you said you were going to proceed with the mitigating measures, and secondly, I'm concerned about the question of cost. You're now applying for additional funds for contingency and price adjustments. I don't know how the contractors will put in the bid. Of course, if they see the figure of $40 billion, of course they will quote the maximum, the highest price. So if the bid is less than 20 to 25 billion, you are actually, I mean, as in the past, however, low the quote is, in the end they will go after you for additional, payment. So I'd like to ask the government how they plan to conduct the tender. Well, we'll make reference of Dr. Kwok's first point. Regarding costs and contingency, I ask the director to answer the question. Well, this is a huge project, costing more than $40 billion. So we will split the project up into 9 separate contracts and call tender, so that for each contract there will be more contractors to bid. Through the tendering system, we will be able to receive the most competitive bids from the market. Well, Chairman, I don't think he has answered my question. Well, that is your estimate. Well, will the total bid which come in be less than the $40 billion odd dollars? And when the contractors put in a lower bid, and what happened? Do they subsequently ask you for claim for additional, payment? Now we are now progressively calling for tender. We don't have a total estimate yet. Where we've already invited tender for 3 contracts, one of which has come back already, and the contract price is within our estimate. It's not particularly high or low. The member asked a question regarding, bids with very low prices. So we have ways to ensure that this will not happen. What method do you have to do that? If a particular bid is exceptionally cheap, or if the price is exceptionally low, then we can not accept it. So the system will prevent bids which are exceptionally low in price to be accepted. Professor Yeo, I'd like to thank Professor Lau for volunteering to come to our meeting today. So according to your preliminary analysis, and if we take the 2014, the latest air quality indicators published by the EPD, according to your initial assessment, do you think the present scenario or option can satisfy those standards? I think it's very difficult. If you look at these 5 parameters, the biggest one will be the ambient air quality. The ambient air quality itself for NO2 is still far away from meeting the standard. And NO2, it's more difficult. But I'd like to emphasize the point mentioned by the director. For this project, if we do not carry the project, the air quality standard will be worse off. So even though it doesn't meet the standard, after we've carried out the project, the pollution level will become lower. If we don't proceed with the in both scenarios, we won't be able to meet the standard. But proceeding with the project would at least lower the level. Well, in that case, perhaps the department may need to answer this question. Just in case members believe that the compromise option should become a single project. What contingency plan do you have to ensure that you'll be able to satisfy the new EIA standard? Under the present circumstances, we should try to implement the CKR project as soon as possible. This is important because, as Professor Lau said, when the project is implemented, it can help improve the overall, air quality, and also it will help lower the cost because the later we start, the estimate will go up. So we're now proposing that for the enclosure in the middle and the north should be dealt with separately so that we can get started with the CKR project first. Once the funding is approved, we can start the project this year. If you insist on putting on the enclosure in the middle section, it would take 2 years for us to go through all the EIA and so on. You say overall there will be improvement in the air quality, but you should look at it holistically. I think the increase in vehicular flow near Prosperous Garden would likely cause the pollution level to deteriorate. It's not like placing the road, underground. So for that section of the road, will there be any improvements or will the situation deteriorate upon the completion of the project? Director. Actually, there will be an improvement. Thank you. I have already explained why there would be an improvement. Indeed, this project will be able to improve the overall air quality and the noise level as far as the residents in the neighborhood are concerned. Michael Tin. In Annex 5, paragraph 14, the residents' demand for the building of full enclosure in the middle section, this may involve the need to realign the PTR, the junction, including the one at Hau Cheung Street. You're saying that you're going to spend $670 million to help 3 residential units to build this non-fully for the half enclosure. Does it mean that the 3-lane traffic at the junction of Hau Cheung Street will have to be changed to 2-lane? Yes, we need to make that conversion. If we were to adopt the new compromise solution, the old bridge will not, the old flyover will not be able to, sustain the loading. So we need to. So I'd like to clarify whether I've heard you correctly. Is this what the administration is telling us? You intend to spend $670 million of public funds to help 3 residential units. For the main project, according to the EIA report, you can, the noise level will be below 70 dB already. You will help them reduce the noise level by 1 dB. The traffic along Hau Cheung Street will be reduced from 3 to 3 lane to 2 lanes. So how many road users' rights will be sacrificed, and how serious will the congestion be should you have this conversion? Thank you. If we were to implement this compromise option, we have already studied the possible traffic impact. In the TIA study, we can see that the traffic situation is acceptable. Changing the traffic from 3 to 2 lane is acceptable. what it means is that there will not be any serious impact on the traffic. So this is not a serious problem. Okay. I'd like to ask my last question. When you come back with this compromise option, could you break it up into 2 projects? First of all, $670 million to help 3 residential units to lower the noise level by 1 dB, and $450 million to. I really have reservation about the first option. For the second one, perhaps I can consider. Deputy Secretary. I have heard Mr. Teen's suggestion, which we certainly consider at the next stage. Of course, we also need to listen to other members. Before the next member asks his or her question, I'd like to remind members that we have received a Section 38 motion. I'd like to remind members that if you want to move any motions pursuant to 32A, please submit them as soon as possible.
Next, Mr. Hau Cheung. Well, I live in the vicinity, so every day I would witness the traffic congestion on Gascoigne Road flyover. I don't know if members are so clear about that like me. Well, we are talking about the 40 meters. It's about the part that's outside Yau Ma Tei Catholic Primary School. And for Prosperous Garden, they hope that for the 80 meters south of that, they want to change the semi-enclosure into full enclosure, right? So I hope that we won't mix up the 40 meters with the 80 meters. And talking about the ventilation building, it's about changing the air pollution. But, well, on Gascoigne Road flyover, no improvement can be made, right? Because there's no room there. So for the ventilation building, it has nothing to do with the Gascoigne Road flyover, right? So the government's proposal may not reduce the noise pollution to the minimum, and all along there have been a lot of pollutants there because traffic congestion is very serious there. And now the air pollution there is serious, and even I can smell the pollution in my home. And then 2 parts were installed with enclosures. Some of them were full enclosures and some of them were semi-closures, some near Council Street, etc. So now the pollutants would come out at the wholesale fruit market or near the market, and there would be one outlet at near the Jade Bazaar. There are several outlets now, so that is the existing situation, right? These are the emission outlets at the moment. Director, what you said just now is the rough layout. If we look at it as a whole, we have conducted an EIA, and we find that is up to standard. As for the details concerning which parts will be affected, I would like to defer the questions to our consultant, Mr. Frankie Chiu. For the EIA, as the director pointed out just now, in the at the sensitive points in that area, we have conducted studies. Of course, that will include Prosperous Garden and other residential buildings. So within the whole area, we have conducted a comprehensive survey. We have looked at the traffic flow and the meteorological data. We did it hour by hour, and then we also look at the ambient density and try to find out whether it's up to standard. And according to the CIA findings, Well, of course, the major pollutant is NO2. So for all the sensitive receivers, we found that now the level can satisfy the standards. Well, after the project, the Gascoigne Road flyover will be less congested. I hope that the project can be carried out as soon as possible so that the traffic congestion problem can be resolved and the air pollution problem can be allayed. Mr. Jeremy Tam, my first question is about noise pollution, and it's also mainly about Prosperous Garden. Now, for Prosperous Garden, what's the decibel level now? Now, with the original scheme, what would the decibel level be? And if the compromise scheme is implemented, what would it be? The further question to our consultant. I wonder if Mr. Chiu has the relevant data at hand. Mr. Chiu? If our consultant doesn't have the data at hand, maybe after the meeting we can provide you with the relevant information. Chairman, I'm surprised. This is a very simple question and they cannot answer it. We've been talking about noise pollution, so there must be a comparison. Otherwise, we have been wasting the past 1.5 hours. I'm really surprised. These are very simple figures. That is, now, what's the existing level? And with the original proposal, what's the level? And with the compromise scheme, what's the level? Well, you can't just tell us that it's good. Now, because for those figures, they are different at different points. I'm talking about the most serious level. Mr. Chiu, do you have the relevant information? Mr. Chiu, maybe I can supplement. When we conducted the noise level study, we had to look at several things. Well, of course, we have to look at the existing situation, and then after building the new roads, what will the situation be? So we will have to look at the noise generated by the new road, and in the sensitive receivers, it will not exceed 70 decibels. Why don't you listen to Mr. Chiu? Yes, I've heard him clearly. I think Mr. Chiu wants to continue. I think I've heard enough, Chairman. Don't worry, you will have enough time to speak. Well, you're interrupting me, Chairman. I'll give you some more time for asking questions, and Mr. Chiu is answering you. Other than that, we will have to ensure that for the noise generated from the projects, the additional decibel level will not exceed 1. So when we design the mitigation measures, these are the requirements we have been following. As for the figures, they have already been set out in the EIA report. That's about the noise pollution level. So can you provide us with a paper afterwards so that we have the figures to refer to? Under Secretary? For Mr. Tam's questions, as for the exact figures, they are all set out in the EIA report and is already been uploaded and it's open information. If you look at our annex, you can also look at the compromise scheme and the latest figures. I think Mr. Tam asked you about the most serious points, and he wants to make a comparison. That is, whether with the compromise scheme the situation will be much improved. So if you can provide additional information to Mr. Tam, that would be great. Yes, that's what I'm asking for. Now, because you have to stand in the shoes of the residents. Now, if traffic flow is increased and you implement mitigation measures, will it be quieter or will it be noisier? And how much the difference would it make? We need the figures. Otherwise, you cannot convince us. This would help the residents. So I hope that after the meeting you can provide me with the figures. If you ask me to look at the EIA report, well, there are several pages. Yes, that's okay, but I'm just looking for a little bit of information, and I think the residents would also like to know that. And also about the ventilation opening. Residents are very worried. They are afraid that all the emission will come out from that opening. So would it be possible to install fans or something like that at the opening? Or purifiers, so as to make sure that the emission will be blown away from the residential areas. Director, I said just now that there will be 3 ventilation buildings, and in each one of them we will install an air purifier, and over 80% of the NO2 and the RSP would be filtered out. And if we look at Prosperous Garden, the ventilation building is now relocated towards the harbor front. That is away from Prosperous Garden, and the emission will be blowing towards the sea. I'm talking about the noise barrier. That is the opening that's facing southwest. Well, originally it was a semi-closure. Now it will be more or less like a full closure, but the opening is towards the southwestern side. So can you do something more there? For example, installing a fan there, so that when emission comes out from there, it would be blown further away from Prosperous Garden. Well, for the enclosure, our present method is like this. If it's semi-enclosure, half of it is open. So for the opening is quite wide. For that wide opening, if you want to draw the air out, in terms of design, is not feasible. Yes, I think you have given us a clear answer. Next, Mr. Eddie Chu, 3 minutes. Chairman, thank you. Can the government provide us with this information? That is for the CKR. You have an implementation program, right? That is, the project will be divided into different stages. Because the project will take a very long time, so for the price adjustment provision is quite high. So what will you do at each stage? If you give us more details, it would help us in monitoring the project. Thank you, Chairman. As for the implementation timetable, we can give it to members after the meeting. Well, please give us a table. Yes, we can do that. Yes. And I have another question. Now you will be using full enclosure and semi-enclosure. So how would the noise be distributed? Would the noise level be very high at the opening of the barrier or the closure? Well, remember, what you mean is the noise level, right? Yes. Yeah, you can imagine this. Now, if you are at the opening of the enclosure, then it's just like you are at the side of the road. And the noise level is a bit higher at the opening when it's compared to roadside noise level. I've heard about the Tsuen situation. So of course, for that enclosure, it can trap the noise in. However, at the openings, the noise level would be quite high. And Mr. Jeremy Tam asked a similar question. He hopes that the noise level distribution can be shown to us in a map, on a map. And he hopes to see a comparison among all the different options. And at different locations, what would the noise level changes be? And also about gardening waste. Will you have an interdepartmental arrangement so it would not just be confined to the lands department or FEHD? So all the departments, including FEHD, would be coordinated, and there should be some guidelines as to how gardening waste can be handled. So for CKR, can you start to think about this? So it's not just your relationship with the contractor. Well, for the noise pollution, I would have to explain more. The materials of the enclosure can absorb noise, so the noise would not be concentrated at the openings. So of course, in the vicinity of the enclosures, the noise level will go down, and for those areas without noise enclosure, the noise will go up. It's just a relative feeling. You might feel that it's noisier. We will remove certain trees. So how will we deal with them? In the contract, we will require the contractor to handle them in a better manner. And of course, we will liaise with the relevant government departments and try to find out how this should be done in the best manner. Helena Wong, well, for the CKL project, we understand that it is pretty urgent. Well, in Kowloon East, there are other developments. For the Kai-Tak Sports Park, it was given a green light by the FC yesterday, and by 2022 it will be completed. And for Kai-Tak Hospital, the advanced works would have to be carried out. A children's hospital is being constructed, and then there will be a comprehensive hospital in the future. So even though we give the green light to the CKR project today, it will still take 8 years. That is, it will not be completed before 2025. So is cannot be packed with the development of Kowloon East. With the commissioning of the hospital and the Kai-Tak Sports Park, the roads still not completed. So in the coming years, there will be a lot of congestion problems. I've been talking to the hospital, and you will be building under the hospital. So I hope that this can be done as soon as possible. So now you are helping us to give you a green light for the principal project, and then you will handle the Prosperous Garden issue later. You are putting forward a proposed scheme for Prosperous Garden, and there are 2 issues here. First, I have a question for the government. Just now you said that the principal project should be passed first, and then for the compromise scheme you will come back for funding. Do you need to gazette that? Yes. And when you gazette it again, you will have to follow the latest EIA indicators, and you may not comply with the latest requirements, right? Well, for the compromise scheme, we have made assessments. And if it does not have a major impact on our original EIA, then we do not have to do another round of EIA. However, if there are significant impacts on the original EIA reports, then we may have to do a new EIA for the compromise scheme. And if the relevant requirements cannot be met, then it cannot go ahead. So now we are putting forward this compromise scheme. We are confident that this can be implemented. When we carry out the detailed technical studies, we will try to identify the best option.
相關條例嘅要求。
And the relevant optional scheme must comply with relevant requirements. The residents are now proposing that we have a full, we extend the full enclosure by 80 meters or 40 to 80 meters. Are we going to satisfy the latest environmental protection criteria? Well, I heard from the director that it would not be necessary. The compromise scheme will involve a semi-enclosure covering both the eastbound and westbound lanes. And this will not significantly or affect the original EIA, and therefore there's no need for a new EIA to be completed, and it can go forward. If we do not do this and we want to have a longer enclosure, full enclosure of a greater length, then we need to look into this with the EPD to see whether a new EIA should be done. That's not something we can say for the moment. Professor Lau, if they extend the full enclosure by 40 to 80 meters to the south, will the air quality be better or worse? From the perspective of residents, you suppose, and that is, you look at it from the perspective of the residents of Block 1 of Prosperous Garden. Well, you've exceeded your time, but Professor Lau, please answer this question. This scheme would move the barrier a bit to the front. It's not really extending the enclosure. Other parameters are unchanged. But if you say it's to be a bigger full enclosure, then I cannot really gauge the effect at this point. If the residents are 30 meters from your home, would you like the enclosure to be a bit farther away? Would it be better for the air quality from the perspective of the residents on the upper floors? As I said in my earlier reply, doing this will bring about a marked improvement compared with doing nothing. But if we reduce it further, would it be better? Of course, it's good. But if we keep asking for more and the whole thing cannot be carried out, it would not. It would mean that the residents would be worse off. Well, the time has been exceeded by rather big margin. But as the director has said, if the mitigation measures are covered by another project, they will certainly look into all these aspects, all these matters, including Dr. Helena Wong's proposal. Mr. Jeremy Tam, second round, 3 minutes. After this, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Mr. Tam, thank you, Chairman. Let me try to guess or offer my take on why the enclosure cannot be moved, cannot be extended, where the full enclosure cannot be further extended. You have a EIA which was already approved. So can we have have a bigger enclosure? Of course, technically it is possible, but if the full enclosure is extended, it would affect the original EIA which was already approved, and you would have to do an EIA again, and you have to comply with the modern the standards that we have today, and you have to do the Gazzetto again. Is it the reason why you cannot relocate the position? Well, that's one of the factors, one of the effects of doing this. We like this project to be proceeded with as soon as practicable, so that the local the traffic situation can be improved. And we have come up with a measure to cater for the demands of local residents, and so that would mean a better approach that we should adopt. You are subject to the design in the EIA which has been improved, and that's why, although we may put up some proposals which would be best to the Prosperous Garden residents, even if it's not a full enclosure, because if I ask for something to be relocated, it will not be the original location that is covered. If we can come up with something that will not hinder your progress, which would be better for the residents, you are not going to accept such proposals for the reasons that I have just described. Is this not really fair to residents? If the opening can be shifted somewhat to the south, the residents were affected. But if we were to do this, this would affect the full enclosure covered in the original EIA. So do you really accord the first priority to the interests of residents there? Well, this is a compromise scheme. That is to say, we separate the two issues. We put the residents' interests at the very foremost. When we implement a project, we have to comply with the law. If this is allowed by the law in force, then there is no option. We propose to separate the two issues. That would mean that if we adopt this approach of separating the two issues, we can implement the CKR project sooner, and at the same time we can implement measures to meet the needs, the demands of residents. And if we lump the two together, if we insist on lumping the two issues together, then we have to look at whether we can satisfy the statutory requirements. And if this project cannot be implemented, then the residents cannot benefit from the improvement to the traffic situation, the air pollution, and so on and so forth. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll resume at 11:20. A recess. Take it as a recess.